Peep Kenobi urges you to like this video and subscribe or he will lose the high ground. This man one day decided to hold his arm up and never put it down. It's been 45 years. Snowflake on a crow's wing. This church in Reykjavik. House cat suffering from myostatin-related muscle hypertrophy, a rare condition that causes muscles to grow excessively large. I urinated a 1 centimeter kidney stone, so you don't have to. Drink more water, avoid cola sodas, get more movement. Swedish horsemen carrying giant flags that say get vaccinated. Seaside capsule Sarco developed by Assisted Seaside Advocacy Exit International enables painless self-euthanasia by gas and just passed legal review in Switzerland. Actual distance between 2 points and how it looks on commonly used map drawn using Mercator projection. 6,400 kilometers, 7,200 kilometers. Skull, found in France, with a knife still embedded in it. The skull belonged to a Roman soldier who died during the Gallic Wars, 52 BC. It was on display at the Museo Roxen in Argentina. Pictured here is Wojciech the soldier bear. He was found by Polish soldiers, where he was trained to help carry shells. He would wrestle and drink with the men. He is now celebrated as a hero in Poland. The set of Shutter Island. Storm in Scotland weaved this fence. Scaleless corn snake with natural ace of hearts head stamp. A vintage can of M1911 pistols at Springfield Armory. Reportedly, this is how the US military packed pistols for airdropping. When the Titanic hit an iceberg, William Murdoch, the Scottish officer in charge, was portrayed as shooting a passenger and then committing suicide in the film. In reality, he was last seen trying to fill as many lifeboats as possible and heroically went down with the ship. German fortifications in Normandy, World War II. Stone sculpture by Benjamin Victor Bathsheba. Photographed in 1912 with red and black paint on it, this iceberg was believed to have sunk the Titanic. Amasunzu, a traditional Rwandan hairstyle that was worn by single men and unmarried women. House built into cliffside. All the 9 kings of Europe pose for a photo in Windsor Castle, for the first and last time in history, May 20th, 1910. Naturally colored eggs showing the variations produced by different chicken breeds. A sign I pass by on a daily basis. This road leads to Area A under the Palestinian Authority. The entrance for Israeli citizens is forbidden, dangerous to your lives, and is against the Israeli law. I think adding color to some old pictures really helped to contextualize them for modern viewers. Iron Lung Girl, Hansel Meath, Boston Children's Hospital 1938. The dog tags of 58,307 US soldiers killed during the Vietnam War at the Harold Washington Library Center, Chicago. This man was born with a single giant arm. He works as a professional arm wrestler. The man in the photo is Geert Adriaan Spoongert, and he was the last man alive who fought for Napoleon 1788 to 1899. Older Roman mosaic under a layer of less older Roman mosaic, found in Greece. The Moranbang Band is an all-female pop group formed in North Korea by Kim Jong-un as a counter to South Korean K-pop. Unlike their South Korean counterparts, all of the members of the band are classically trained and play all of their own instruments. They are known as North Korea's Spice Girls. Before and after the excavation and restoration of the Great Ziggurat of Ur in Iraq, built approximately 4,100 years ago by King Ur-Nammu of the Near Sumerian Empire, in dedication to the moon god. The trees at my work have been shaped into lattice trunks. Abandoned ship with trees growing out of it. In the 18th century, the British Mary Toft succeeded in deceiving several eminent doctors, making them believe that she had given birth to rabbits. He did so by inserting the rabbits into the vag and expelling them at the time of birth. Salesman having his motorized roller skates filled up in 1961. He has a single horsepower air-cooled engine strapped to his back and holds a clutch, accelerator, and engine cut-off switch in his hand. Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg during the Civil War. Since China has decided to investigate cube-like object on the moon, let's not forget NASA thought this wasn't worth investigating on Mars. Nature reclaiming its grounds, recapturing an abandoned railway. In 1890s, Charles B. Tripp, the armless man, Ellie Bowen the legless man, riding a tandem together. The last abortion clinic in Mississippi. American citizens celebrating the end of Prohibition December 1933. The ringlady of Herculaneum, a Roman woman around 45 years of age who died during the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD. She was found surrounded by her gold jewelry and still wearing 2 gold rings on her left hand. This colorized photograph from 1894 features a young indigenous woman, Oobi of the Kiowa tribe, treating viewers to her beautiful smile. There are a multitude of reasons people from this time did not smile in photographs, making this particular one quite rare. Modern Kiowa reside in Oklahoma. A flyer in Japan explaining the horrors of Chinese government against Uyghurs Muslims 2021. There are 48 pictures of the sun, taken during 1 year, once a week, at the same place and time. The highest point is the solstice and the lower point is the equinox. The result is the symbol of infinity. Book created the first car touchscreen all the way back in 1986. The technology was dropped because customers were complaining about taking their eyes off the road and it wouldn't be seen again for some time. The world's last commercial sailing ship, the Premier, rounding Cape Horn for the last time in 1949. These are the Andamanese people of India's Andaman and Nicobar Islands Union Territory. While they may superficially appear African, their closest genetic relatives are the Ainu people of Japan and Tibetans. Drone exterminating hornets by snacking them into a tank. World's most expensive parking lot. Interesting rock formation in France, Massif de la Chartreuse. Fossilized tree roots in limestone blocks. This adult German Shepherd has pituitary dwarfism, which causes him to be a forever puppy. 78-year-old Robert T. Lincoln, son of Abraham Lincoln, is helped up the steps at the dedication of the Lincoln Memorial to his father in Washington, D.C. May 1922. Polar bear looking through the lens of a camera. Kabuto Santero, a Japanese military commander wearing traditional armor, taken in 1863 by Felis Beto. The modern skyline of Moscow contrasted against the older sections of the city. This teacher lost all 4 limbs due to blood infection, but now she can return to school thanks to robotic arms. An owl with heart-shaped patterns on its feathers. PS1 themed hot tub. Flying taxis being tested for use at 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris. Sea sheep, found off the coast of Japan, are able to indirectly photosynthesize using the chloroplasts from the algae they feed on. Spent artillery shell casings from World War I. Deep in the Atacama Desert of Chile, new dunes are forming, not of sand, but of last year's unsold clothing from around the world, piled high atop the previous year's fast fashion casualties and unpurchased lines of clothes. The garments are usually filled with toxins and dyes and do not biodegrade. Direct voltage cable for offshore wind turbines that can power cities thousands of miles away with little to no transmission loss. Discovered in 2011, the skeletal remains of this Roman couple have been holding hands for 1,500 years. German circus Roncalli is using holograms instead of real animals for a cruelty-free magical experience. Femur of a Patago titan, one of the largest sauropods to ever exist. A rescue dog employed in the army comes to the aid of an infantryman. Western Front 1915. Taiwanese commandos who fought the Imperial Japanese in the late 1800s. Twisted Knot Tree, a living tree sculpture created by Aharon Navi. An F-2H-2 pilot from CV-B-43 lands on the wrong US carrier, CV-18, and ultimately pays the price for it. Retired F-15 Eagles being slowly picked clean for parts to keep other fighters flying. This bird's nest my mum found on a recent walk, with moss and lichen on the outside and lined with the fluffy parts of clematis seeds. In 1942, the crew of USS New Orleans used coconut logs to repair the ship after the entire bow was lost the previous night during the Battle of Tassafaranga, with a quarter of their ship missing. They then sailed the cruiser in reverse for 1,800 miles. Our 3D reenactment of Ta, the wife of Pharaoh Amenhotep III and Tutankhamun's grandmother, was created by a team of Egyptian and German researchers. German kids flying a kite made of worthless money during hyperinflation 1923. Obsidian vs. Steel blade in surgery. Obsidian makes cleaner cuts with less scarring. Obsidian. Steel. King Tutankhamun's camping bed discovered in 1922 by Howard Carter. It's the first ever 3-part folding camping bed. In 1866, Liechtenstein had an army of 80 men and fought during the Austro-Prussian War. They suffered no injuries or deaths and returned home with 81 people because they made a new Italian friend. The army was disbanded soon after, and they haven't had an army since. Giant Italian gun captured by Austro-Hungarians during their offensive November 1917. This is what Alexander the Great might have looked like, based on his busts and ancient accounts of him. The 4 assassins of Abraham Lincoln, taken at the exact moment they met their grim fate. Simo Häyhä was a Finnish soldier who fought in the Winter War against the Soviet Union. He is known as the deadliest sniper in history with over 500 confirmed kills in the 105 days it lasted. He survived the war and eventually died in 2002 at 96 years old. The skull of a Deinonychus, giant prehistoric crocodile that ate dinosaurs for lunch, compared to that of a modern freshwater crocodile. Lucy Smith and Pauline Rankin of the Ladies Scottish Climbing Club, climbing the Salisbury Crags cliff in Edinburgh 1908. This is the astounding babysitter bone bed containing multiple, exceptionally preserved baby Psittacosaurus dinosaurs. What was most astonishing was that the larger animal wasn't sensually mature, meaning it wasn't the parent, suggesting communal child-rearing behavior, hence the find's mane. In 1986, the charity organization United Way of Cleveland released 1.5 million balloons. The event was intended to be a harmless fundraising publicity stunt, but the balloons drifted back over the city, Lake Erie, and landed in the surrounding area, causing problems for traffic and a nearby airport. A 2,500-year-old ancient Greek cooker, 3 or 4 stoves, oven and a grill, found on the Greek island of Delos. 20,000 years ago, giant armadillos, Glyptodon, weighed around 2 tons, the largest being the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. 16th century book wheel. De Hovenring in Eindhoven, the Netherlands, with a bicycle roundabout above the road for cars. Zero Avenue in Canada. The border is about 10 meters from the side of the road. There is no minefield, guard towers, or fencing, just nature. Canada, United States. During World War II, when radio silence needed to be observed, radio operators would use signal lamps to communicate with nearby aircraft while in flight. Here, a radio operator does this to tell an aircraft to maintain close formation. My great-grandpa's toy, when he was a kid, a cast-iron dump truck made in the early 1920s. Still in decent condition and wheels/bed still function. Long-tailed macaques in Indonesia have figured out that they can acquire more favorable food items from tourists by stealing their phones instead. Christmas light display in Japan in the shape of Godzilla. The multi-religion blessing ceremony in Taiwan. Believers of Yagwanda, Buddhism, Taoism, Taiwanese indigenous beliefs and Catholic can come together to pray for good luck for both the nation and their families. Sergeant Siwash was a duck that fought in a few Pacific battles during World War II. The Marines loved giving her beer, but she was quite picky, had to be warm, and couldn't be drafted. During the Battle of Tarawa, she stormed the beach with her Marines and pursued a Japanese cook, eventually defeating the enemy foul. Mingun Patodagui is an incomplete monument stupa which was intentionally left unfinished. Mingun Sagaing region, Myanmar. This is an umbrella gun, loaded with a ricin bullet that was 1.7mm in size and fired from the tip. It was used to kill Bulgarian dissident Georgi Markov in London in 1978, penetrating his back right thigh. His killer was never found. Residents of the city of Hanoi, Vietnam, taking shelter during an air raid, 1967. In the early 20th century, there was a trend in the US of destroying trains in staged head-on collisions in front of live audiences for entertainment. This practice ended in the 1930s as people saw it as a waste of old, but otherwise useful locomotives during the Great Depression. El Pit Cenote, Yucatan, Mexico. There are thousands of cenotes in the Yucatan, many connected by flooded passageways. This one was actually discovered as divers exited one such passageway, imaging being in a tight cave swimming out, to be the first to discover this massive underwater chamber. A mosaic panel from a recently uncovered Roman villa in Rutland, UK, showing the body of Hector being returned to his father King Priam, in exchange for his weight in gold, after being killed by Achilles in the Trojan War. Early manual computer used to calculate effects of nuclear bomb. Nuclear bomb effects computer, revised edition, 1962. Based on data from the effects of nuclear weapons developed by the Lovelace Foundation under contract to the Division of Biology and Medicine of the US Atomic Energy Commission. The earliest known US election map, the 1880 US presidential election. Blue for Republicans and red for Democrats. Kirby Muxloe Castle in Leicestershire, England. Building works commenced in 1480, however the owner was executed, or treason, by King Richard III in 1483. It remains unfinished to this day. A Russian Orthodox priest blesses in Su-27. This unusual practice of blessing weapons of mass destruction was once a fairly common sight, especially during victory parades or right before sending weapons into battle. But now in the 21st century, it's heavily looked down upon by the modern church. Thousands of Bangladeshi Muslims board overcrowded trains as they try to return home after attending a 3-day Islamic congregation. Dinosaurs which got fossilized when they were in a fight. Velociraptor and Protoceratops. MV Blue Mollin, a Norwegian dry dock vessel, transporting the damaged 9,000-ton guided missile destroyer USS Cole. Mollin is able to move vessels in such a manner weighing in excess of 60,000 tons. The Mount Whaleback iron ore mine in Pilbara, Western Australia. Iron was first discovered here in 1957, but the location was kept secret until 1960 due to concerns the mineral was in short supply. Island off the Amalfi coast, looks like a dolphin. This is Thermopylae, where 300 Spartans, 7,000 other Greek soldiers took on King Xerxes and his army of 70,000 to 300,000 Persians. Top is a recreation of what it would have looked like in 480 BC, with a little more wooded area on the hills. Bottom is what it looks like today. Antarctic sea worm. That part that looks like its head is a throat-like appendage that folds up into its body. Size comparison of a Piracerotherium, largest land animal to ever exist, to an adult human. Interesting glaciers in Scarindia. Plymouth Montserrat, the only ghost town capital in the world, evacuated in 1995 when a nearby volcano erupted. It remains the de jure capital city of the island of Montserrat to this day. A butterfly wing is seen under a microscope. 41,500-year-old carved tusk fragment could be the Eurasia's earliest known example of jewelry. True purpose and meaning of these dots remain unclear, but they could represent a counting system, lunar observations, or a way of scoring kills. The working termite's life cycle is from 1 to 2 years and the queen can live up to 17 years. However, African queen termites have been recorded for living over 50 years, with some scientists claiming they could potentially live for more than a century. After B, ancient Iranian tool for washing ice, dates back to 600 BC. There's street named after Obi-Wan Kenobi in Poland. Ulika Obi-Wana Kenobigo. An ancient megalodon shark's jaw that lived approximately 23 to 3.6 million years ago, compared to a modern day great white shark. An average adult great white shark is between 4.5 to 6.4 meters in length.